Well, Ethan, we've got two hot mics, and time to kill.
I got all day.
So let's chop it up about culture, boy. Huh?
Thanks for having me, man.
Oh yeah.
Smile for
Thanks
the
for
camera.
coming back on my show.
Yeah, man. It's I'm just proud to be here and grateful.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure this gets on my resume.
Yes, 2 appearances on the Culture Couch. And with that, I'd like to give a warm welcome to all of our viewers out there to Culture Couch, where we sit on a couch and talk about our company culture, right?
Yes, I know this is a shorter version of the podcast where we kind of condense material, a little more bite-sized.
Yeah.
But I would just like to make one tangent. Mm-hmm. When we have the money, we should do a Culture Couch where we rotate the couches every episode, and we kind of do a little like couch commentary.
You don't think that money could be like better allocated? Or we could get like Crate and Barrel to sponsor the program, and they could, donate a different couch, and we review the couches as we plump our bums on them.
When you're plumping your bum on a couch, think about Culture Couch. And let me just finish with this. It is a nonprofit arm of the business where we donate the couch to a family in need.
I love this idea, and I think if we're ever going to get to that, we better get to the content.
Yes, these companies are going to want to know what we're all about. So why don't we, act like we're speaking to Mr. Crate and Barrel and Mrs. Williams Sonoma.
Well, we're going to continue on the trail of talking about our values,
please,
because they are really at the core of who we are as a business. And we're just hoping that, like, through us talking about our values, you, our viewers, can learn something, whether that's about your company or a company that you're starting, or just how to live an intentional life, right?
Amen.
So we thought today it would be fun to literally like scroll through our orientation that we give new staff. The whole purpose of our orientation is to talk about our mission, vision, and values and how our new hire fits into that. And so today's value is
put empathy into action.
Right.
Action.
When we were, we'll talk about the value, but this is a good opportunity to talk about our values when we were naming them. I had read one of the most influential books in my young career, which is
the Bible.
The Bible. True. But also Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And one of the things he says in that book is when you're making your core values, make them verbs, not nouns.
Why?
Well, because your values should prompt action.
Why?
I'm just going to pretend like you didn't say that. Because it's one thing to say one of my core values is empathy, but it's another thing to say put empathy into action. It kind of prompts you towards something and makes you. It's just more applicable to the daily life of the business, right?
Maybe we could offer an example.
Yeah, right. So, empathy in and of itself is not an action,
right?
Right. It's maybe more of a mindset, heart posture. But putting empathy into action, it's like, we give this example in orientation. So I've said this example like 5,000 times.
Because we've hired 5,000 people.
That would suck if we actually did. But, let's say Ethan and I are behind the bar at Valor, and I see a mom walking towards our door, and she has a double stroller, which, moms out there, dads out there, you can relate. She's got a double stroller. She's heading towards the front door. If my core value is just empathy, I could kind of put myself in her shoes and be like, wow, that must be hard to have 2 kids and try to open the door of a coffee shop with a stroller. But empathy in action would be, what would you do if you were living out this value in that situation?
You get out from behind your counter
Yeah.
and you open the door. Simple.
It really is simple.
It's simple.
I said that on our last Culture Couch episode where we talked about our core value, fun and focused, with Micah Rudder. It's all so simple.
It's too easy.
It's really simple, but just doing it and having those values infused into your culture and translating those values to staff and having them live out those values in their own way it's simple but difficult.
Right. Yeah, I would say the one word synopsis of put empathy into action in our company is anticipating needs before they're even communicated.
Wow.
And meeting them.
Yeah, unpack that a little bit in the context of the cafe.
So in every touch point in the cafe, whether that's making the drink, taking the order, greeting, saying goodbye, giving the Wi-Fi password, getting water for people, it's we just have the opportunity to see people and anticipate what they're going to need. Obviously, first off, it's a beverage. And so there's just, when you've done the same thing thousands of times, we just get a little ahead of the curve.
Right.
And you can either be frustrated by that when someone doesn't know what they want. You say, oh my gosh, it's a coffee shop. Just order something.
Yeah.
Or you can be like, this person doesn't know what they want. I've taken thousands of orders. Hey, what are you in the mood for? Let me help you.
Right.
They finish taking the order and they kind of like slowly walk away. It's like, okay, hey, if you actually go wait over here, we'll get your drink ready.
Right.
Oh, you're hanging out here? Hey, why don't you go take a seat? Let me grab you a cup of water. Are you working today? Do you need our Wi-Fi password?
Right.
And some businesses can do this scalable with, signs everywhere and the step-by-step robot vibes of like no one has to interfere with that person.
Yeah.
But we love the touch points that our team gets to have with the guests.
Right.
Does that make sense?
I think I'm tracking. Yeah.
Huh.
It's just I was actually struck with this last night. I went to a restaurant. Okay. Sue me. And I was pushing a double stroller into a restaurant, and the host stand at the restaurant was like literally right inside. Mm-hmm. It's like you walk in the front door and it's 3 feet from the front door, and there was this guy. I'm sure he's a great guy.
He's amazing.
But I was like struggling to open the door, and I was like hitting the wheels on the thing. It's like it's not a huge deal, but I just like watching him watch me do it. And it's not like I was pissed or something like, you should have opened it or whatever.
That's not technically in his job description.
Right. Right. And that's something that we've mentioned on I think it was one of our what's the other show we do? Coffee Sometimes. Our Coffee Sometimes podcast, the 2-hour one, right?
Yes.
We stole this kind of mindset from, excuse me.
My jaw is on the floor.
We stole this from something that the guys at Cat and Cloud Coffee said there in Santa Cruz, which, guys, I know you're watching. Thank you for
Chris,
all that you've
Jared,
done.
Alex, Tanner, the whole team.
They were talking about how when we train new people for working in the company, we don't want to just only tell them specific policies and sort of, scripts for them to repeat and regurgitate upon the guests. But rather, instead of those hyper-specific things, teach values. Because in that, and we've already mentioned this, but when you have a group of people that all have values alignment, they all live out the values in their own way, because everybody's different, and that's the beauty of diversity. But if you threw out the values and only taught rules and policies and procedures and just said, everybody do these, and when you don't do these, you will be reprimanded. When you set a rule, it's like people are just going to break it or they're going to forget. But then they won't even be inspired to do those things because they're not operating. We're kind of getting off. We're going more big picture.
Well, yeah, I was saying in my head, I was saying in my head, maybe we just introduce the idea of walking through our core values, and we're talking about putting empathy into action. And next time we could walk through the orientation, because I think it's pretty important to get a framework.
Yeah.
And that you were going exactly where I was thinking of, like policy versus value.
Yeah.
Of you got to get people that want the same thing,
Right.
believe the same thing, but it's going to look different in every way, and you can't train for every circumstance.
Correct.
You know.
Yeah, something we talk about along those lines in our orientation is the difference between a server and a servant. Right, buddy?
Yeah, preach it, brother.
We've
Come on.
fellowshipped years over this concept, but you there in YouTube podcast land, I'm sure you've been to a service establishment, whether that be a grocery store or a restaurant or a coffee shop or a bar or an airport or whatever.
Gas station.
I could go on and on with the different
Services.
categories and subcategories of service establishments, but that's
Next episode.
beside the point. Sorry, I could keep riffing on that. But you have two types of workers out there. You've got someone who is in a service job. They are physically doing the mundane, operations of someone who serves. Let's say you're at a restaurant. They bring you the water. That person technically served you the water. They said, "What can I get you?" And that's a service that they're providing. They're in the service industry. That would be someone who's a server. But someone who's a servant is someone who actually takes joy and fulfillment in doing those things. And that person, that second person who's a servant, is going to go above and beyond in doing those things. And there's this thing we talk about that we read in a Danny Meyer book, Setting the Table.
Shout out, Danny.
And he talks
Thanks
about
for watching.
this concept. Thanks for watching, Danny. This concept of uncovering the rocks, right? And if you have worked in a service industry job, then you probably get this. But when you look, let's say you're on a mountain retreat, and you go towards the creek, and there's the beautiful transparent water that's flowing in one direction, and you see these river rocks, that are in the bed of the river, and it may look like there's not many fish or not much life in that river, but
Simple ecosystem.
more of a simple ecosystem.
You're completely wrong.
But you're wrong, because as you start to pick up these rocks in the river, you start to see this algae, crawfish,
little fish, bugs,
big fish, little fish,
dirt,
every fish underneath these rocks. And so as you pick them up, you're starting to uncover all of this life that's in this river. And if you didn't pick up the rock, then you wouldn't have seen it. And so, when I'm standing at the bar at Concierge, I can ask these, again, incredibly simple probing questions that start to uncover rocks in people's lives. And so I can ask something as simple as how's it going today?
What are you up to?
Yeah. And I do
Why are you alive
I
today?
do like, what are you up to today, as opposed to how are you? Because people always expect the how are you thing.
Yeah.
At a coffee shop. But what are you up to today starts to, maybe they ask, or when they answer that question, they may say, "Oh yeah, I just dropped my son off at school." Like I have 2 kids, and I just put one of them in school for the first time. I could be like, "Oh yeah, I just started my 2.5-year-old at school, and yeah, it was a crazy day." And we start talking about that, and I just remember these little details about this person's life, so that next time when they come in, I can bring that back up and be like, "Hey, how's the drop off today?" You know how well that makes them feel? I mean, it makes them feel incredible.
Let's just zoom out 30 million feet. All we're trying to do in this is bringing humanity back to the job, right?
Yes.
That's just what we are supposed to do as humans, is connect and relate,
Yeah.
and find common ground and uplift one another. But there is something, and we've talked about this lately, that when you're in a job role or in a position title, something just washes over you. and you're like, that's not your primary focus anymore. And I understand that you have tasks at hand,
Yeah.
and that there are responsibilities and there's a team to communicate with. But a big part of this value is just kind of rehumanizing the cafe experience.
You're saying like, someone's this beautiful, amazing personality outside of work, and then when they clock in, they lose like 60% of their personality.
Yeah, they go robot mode.
Yeah.
And we've probably caught ourselves doing the same thing.
Yes.
And that's why, these other values that we'll go through complement that, like being better together. But we kind of have to snap ourselves out of it sometimes and remind each other that we are serving this person who's here for one time today, and there's a certain magic to seeing that person for who they are.
Right.
And being curious and seeking them out and anticipating their needs and meeting them before they're even communicated.
It's amazing.
Oh, it's good.
Well, guys, that was a little bite of probably our most talked about core value, put empathy into action. Like you said, I imagine we'll go some more episodes on this because I think it's just something worth unpacking for our listenership, our viewership. But thanks for tuning in. We're going to do this once a week, so we will see you next time. Love you.
Culture Couch, Culture Couch. Thank you for coming to Culture Couch. Next week, check it out again. Culture Couch, Culture Couch. Culture Couch is an affiliate of Coffee Sometimes Podcast, and that's that. Trademark value.